everyone, and thank you for joining us here on the Recruitment Roundup podcast, which is brought to you by BMS Performance. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, BMS Performance is a specialist sales and marketing recruitment consultancy. For the last 30 years, we've been helping businesses across the UK recruit for vacancies at every level. I'm your host, Mike Leather, and every week I'll be joined by a new guest where we'll get stuck into the latest trends in regards to recruitment. We'll talk about insights, we share ideas, we share experiences, and ultimately we look to provide value to fundamentally help you, whether or not you're a hiring manager, a business leader, or part of an internal talent team, to recruit smarter, faster, and more effectively. So welcome back everyone to another episode of the Recruitment Roundup podcast, brought to you by BMS Performance. I am your host, Mike Leather.
I'm the co-host, Sam Musiarira.
How's it going, Sam?
All good, Mike. How are you doing?
All right, not bad. Fresh out of the event we went to last week at Ascot, which was good.
Yeah,
Sun was blazing.
Man.
Yeah, I know you had a good time, didn't you?
I really did, Mike. I really did. If anyone's not been to Ascot, it's definitely become one of my favourite places. Just the sun was out, good drinks, good company. Just can't believe I hadn't been to the races before, and no excuse. I only live 5 minutes away from Aintree race course. But yeah, no, it's what a day. What a day.
What a day. And the sun has stayed out this week, hasn't it? So long may it continue. So hopefully we'll get a summer eventually. We wanted to come on today and talk about the subject, which is one we've covered previously a while back, but not in as much detail as what we're going to do today, about how employers or hiring managers can create sometimes too much of a competitive environment for recruitment partners to work in, so that they can deliver the level of service that they want to, and also the level of service that the client is expecting. So to provide some context to this, and obviously I'm not going to talk about the actual company, but this episode was inspired by a situation that we found ourselves in yesterday. So Sam, I'll give you a bit of background to it first, because I don't think you're privy to it. So essentially, a company has contacted us. They're a tech business, which is, as I'll say, and they want to hire for 18 vacancies over the next 6 months, right? So these are a mixture of sales and account manager vacancies. So they've sent this information out and said, right, this is what we want to hire for. Here's an example of the salaries that we'd be looking to pay, and here's the terms that we want everyone to work to. And these terms were a flat fee, and payment terms that, should we just say, were not typical, to say the least. So naturally we went back and we said, well, thanks for reaching out to us, but there's no way that we can say right now whether or not this is something we can help with, or if it's something that we can't help with, because we just don't have the information. We don't know what type of candidate profile you want to recruit. We don't know what timescales are involved. We don't know the level of resource that we need to put in, the time we need to spend to find the candidates that you require. And we also don't know what your plan is, like who we're up against. Are we using direct methods? Are you planning on using other recruiters? All these things are important to us when we're deciding to work with a company, and we want to work with companies that we feel that we can develop a partnership with. So it felt like a transactional approach from the outset. And where this has ended up with is that we've got a conversation with a senior decision maker in the company, but it's a 15-minute conversation. That's all we've been allowed. And this unfortunately isn't uncommon. Like, I would say the amount of times that you've probably received an email from a company and they've said, right, here's a vacancy, Sam, here's a job description, there's 2 other recruiters working on it, send us some CVs. And what happens in these scenarios is that the company can, their own intention, really, because they don't understand the mechanics of how a recruitment company works, they can create an environment whereby it's too competitive. Because I think in this situation, this example that I've just shared, they've probably sent that out to 7, 8 different companies.
Yeah.
And a handful of them will say yes.
So yes, yeah.
And then what we've
Right.
got is we've got 3 or 4 recruiters working on the vacancy. So what,
Yeah.
there's 25% chance of actually filling the job
Yeah.
for fees that are well below
Yeah.
the market rate.
Yeah.
Those recruiters will know that
Yeah.
as well. And then how can they then put the level of resource and spend the time that they need to do them vacancies, justice, and actually find the talent, spend enough time assessing it,
Yeah.
screening the candidates, managing them through the recruitment process? How can he do all of that when the size of the prize is pretty low and they're in a really, 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 really high risk situation?
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be good to come on and use this example and talk around it and have a chat firstly, I guess, put ourselves in the shoes of the prospects, keep it balanced,
Yeah.
and think about why they
Yeah.
would see this approach as a good way of working with potential recruitment partners, and then talk about the
Yeah.
problems that they might not foresee
Yeah.
from our side of it. The problems that they create by having an overly competitive environment, or constructing an overly competitive environment with the recruitment partners, and then finish off with what sales leaders can do if they're actually finding
Yeah.
themselves in that position and they're not getting the service level they'd expect. But like, how much have you seen that as well with
Yeah.
the clients that, not clients that you've worked with, but prospects that
Yeah.
maybe you've not worked with before, and like that's been the
Yeah.
like opening gambit?
Yeah, no, Mike, it's a great question, and it's a really, really great topic. Yeah, it's remarkable that this actually happens so often, and I think what we're probably gonna, it would be a really good segue for us to maybe have a bit of a open conversation whether a competitive environment is a good thing versus a bad thing, right? When we think about what that looks like. But you're right, with a lot of clients that, that I'm speaking to now, it's more of, we are the people that have the need. We are the people that are going to be obviously paying you the fee, and it needs to be you work according to how we want to work,
Mm.
and it's take it or leave it. And obviously, when we look at recruitment just in the UK as a whole, I think there's a statistic that I was reading is about 30, 40,000 different agencies all in the UK within recruitment. And if you compare our market compared to America or all these different regions all over the world,
Yeah.
the barrier for entry is so low, right? And when
Yeah.
you've got, an opportunity as a senior stakeholder within an organization, you've realized that you've got a recruitment need, and you think the right thing to do is, we're going to Google up what are the top 5, 10 sales recruiters that come up in the UK, send it out to all of them. This is how we're going to work. Yeah, unfortunately, a couple of the people are going to say yes without consultatively understanding the nuances that you spoke about in terms of the roles, what kind of candidate profile that we're looking for, educating people on the market, understanding what we're up against from a threat point of view as well, and just fully getting to grips with, what the culture is within this organization as well, just to see if that right solution is available and what that right solution should be. So there's no consultative information or opportunity, shall we say. And you're right, it's happening quite a lot. And
Isn't this
it,
why
it
the
is frustrating.
recruitment industry gets a bad rap as well,
Yeah,
though?
yeah, of
Like,
course.
because recruitment consultancies take on projects like this without fully scoping them out,
Yeah,
or without the backbone to say
yeah,
no as
of course,
well. I haven't
of
got the
course.
courage to walk
Yeah,
away, and then we take work on that we haven't qualified, which is the
yeah,
key, point of this, isn't it? You've got
yeah,
to qualify.
yeah,
Like, what is the proposition that I'm going to be
of course.
working on? What is the
Yeah,
vacancy? What is the company? And then therefore, how best positioned are we to actually help? Can we help? But no,
yeah,
a lot of recruiters will just take on the work, not deliver the service, and then it creates a bad impression on the
exactly.
client, and they
Yeah,
tar all recruiters with
yeah.
the
With the
same
same
brush.
brush. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating when you've got recruiters that care and that are really passionate about what they
Yeah.
do and that are in the industry for the right reasons, right? And you know, then you get certain agencies, obviously we don't want to be naming names, but where they're going to be obviously looking to chance it, right? They'll be like, look, we've got 18 vacancies, like you said, Mike, I think, and,
Mm.
we might potentially have, I don't know, 5 or 6 candidates, and if we fill 3 or 4 of these, then it's good for us. We don't care about, so it's
Mm.
creating that kind of environment where people are taking shortcuts, people haven't got the courage to, to want to work with an organization, to really partner up, to provide the right
Mm.
solution, to take time out because that's equivalent to, you can't possibly ask someone to build an extension on your house and say, this is what it's going to cost, this is what we're going to do, and
Exactly.
that's
Yeah, it's a
it,
good analogy.
without
Yeah.
consultatively looking to understand, the dimensions, the build, the models, the spec,
Mm.
you can't possibly commit to that no matter what. I don't know what industry would do that,
Yeah,
except for
exactly.
recruitment.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, I love that analogy. Like if you
yeah,
said to a builder, I've got an
yeah,
extension, but all I want to pay is X
yeah,
amount,
yeah,
the builder
yeah,
would say, well, I can't
I can't.
even say if I
Yeah.
can if that's
I can't
doable
fucking
until
do
I've
it.
actually
Yeah,
seen the property
yeah,
because I don't know what, like you say, the size. I don't know what type of extension it is you want. Don't know what the materials are that I need to use. But like you say, recruitment's different. But let's look at it from a employer perspective.
yeah,
So and put ourselves in the shoes of a sales director or HR director that is like working or approaching recruiters in this way. Why would they do that?
yeah,
Like, what's the theory behind it?
yeah. That's a great point. I think obviously the theory behind it, when I think about it from an employer perspective, is just the more eyes, the more numbers, the more volume, the quicker
Yeah,
we'll get to the desired outcome that we have. If
yeah,
agency X doesn't have the candidates that we're looking for, maybe agency Y will, maybe agency Z will,
yeah,
right? So from their end, it's more, the more eyes that I have committed to what I'm looking for, the quicker that we're going to be able to
mm,
fill these roles and yeah, get the outcome that we're after.
yeah. So the wider I spread the net, the
Yeah,
more fish I'm gonna catch. So like you can understand that theory, can't you? And I think
yeah,
that's
of
purely
course.
what it comes down to.
Yeah,
Also, because if you approach recruiters with a lot of vacancies,
yeah,
then the size of the prize is
bigger.
bigger. There's more
Yeah,
guaranteed work, so you might
yeah,
feel like you're in a position where you can drive down fees, and there's always a
yeah,
commercial conversation to be had. But and this
yeah,
is one of your phrases that you've used on another podcast
yeah,
with us. Um, their currency is always commitment,
yeah,
like always is, always will be. Um, and when we talk about commitment, some of the key things that we talk around are interview times and dates,
yeah,
feedback calls, but crucially, like the number of recruitment partners we're going to be up against, because that therefore reduces the risk of being able to fill the reduces our risk and therefore
yeah,
increases our opportunity of filling the vacancies. So the less risk obviously that we take on,
yeah,
the higher our chance of filling the vacancy, the higher our chance of filling the vacancy, the more time we can spend on it fundamentally, can't we? And I just think
yeah,
that when you put recruiters in an environment whereby they're up against loads of others,
yeah,
then that increases the risk. They can't spend enough as much time as that they want on the
exactly,
vacancy.
exactly. And yeah, Mike, you summed it up really well in the sense of if I'm a recruiter and if I'm in an environment where, and it's a natural way that it will work within any agency that's working contingently, when we've got n- not enough commitment from the client or the prospect, whoever we're dealing with, the natural instinct is to follow the commitment, follow the people that are committing to you, follow the people that are giving you the time, that are giving you that availability, that are committing to interviewing, that are committing to the process, as
Mm,
opposed to, someone who's a bit hit and miss here or there. And, the commitment is the currency within our game, and it's not necessarily about the eyes, because once that threat is then realized, you're going to ultimately less people are going to be more committed to your role, really. And when we think about the drawbacks of what that process would actually look like in the long run.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I think when you're starting to work with a recruitment partner, the things that you're looking for are good volume of candidates who meet the brief,
Yeah,
that have been assessed and screened properly,
Yeah.
qualified, and understand what it is, that you're looking for, and you feel like the level of communication from a recruitment partner that you're working with is strong. That
Yeah.
tend to be the boxes that you're looking to tick more often than not. And I think the more recruiters a company works with, the less time those recruiters can actually spend doing all of the things that the client would expect them to do
Yeah.
to deliver the high service level that the client is looking for. But how much competition is too much, would you say? If we consider, let's just say we
Yeah.
get a brief, and a lot of companies will want to recruit a
Yeah.
very good salesperson,
Yeah.
and they can be open on like what background and experience that salesperson has got. So they're recruiting more so for skills rather than experience. Like, again, to keep the conversation balanced, because we don't want listeners to think, well, we're just telling everyone to work with recruiters on an exclusive basis. That'd be nice, but
Yeah.
let's be honest, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, how much competition is too much competition? Like, what's the line
Yeah. Mike, it's a
in
great
your view?
question. That's a great question. And obviously, in my view, my open and honest opinion, anything more than 2 agencies, I think anything more than that, you really, really are pushing it. I think, 1, 2 agencies is what you would want to see, depending on the brief, depending on, the experience that you're looking for. But I think, once you start pushing to 3 plus, you really do to dilute the market and the messaging. And I think if I'm advising anyone, I think anything more than a couple of agencies at a time working on that role is probably not the right way to do it. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that as well. I think
Yeah.
if I was working on a vacancy and the client said to me, look, Mike, I'm working with 2 to 3 other recruitment partners alongside you,
Yeah.
and we've got our own direct methods and
Yeah.
internal referral scheme, well, I'm actually up against 5 then.
Yeah.
So if I've got a fee agreed with that client, and I know that on average, most recruiters will fill 1 in 2 to 1 in 4
Right.
vacancies that they
Yeah.
work on. If it's a contingent meaning that effectively it's no win, no fee, and
Yeah.
usually your recruitment partner will invoice you when the contract's signed or when the
Yeah.
person starts. Then I want to keep to that filling, 50% to
Yeah.
30% of the vacancies that I work on. But you're putting me in an environment where I've only got a 20% chance of filling it because I'm up against 5 other
Yeah.
methods. So for me, that is too competitive. I would
Yeah.
say, in order to get a high level of service from your recruitment partner, and obviously that's ambiguous, we can discuss what we mean by
Yeah.
high level a bit later on.
Yeah.
I would say one other recruiter.
Yeah.
I think any more than that, and you're at risk of creating too much for a competitive environment, and you're diluting the level of service that you're going to
Yeah.
receive from your recruitment partner, because
Yeah.
most recruitment companies, especially in sales recruitment and marketing recruitment, are working on a
Yeah.
contingent basis. So they're taking on all the risk, which is
Yeah.
something we always say. So,
Yeah.
yes, you're giving your recruitment partner a vacancy, but they're taking on all the risk
Yeah.
because they know that you could fill it directly,
Mhm.
could put the role on hold. Another recruiter could fill it, but that's the game that they're happy to play, working
Yeah.
contingently. And we want to mitigate risk as much as we can so that we can put as much time, as much resource into filling a vacancy fundamentally. So I would say one, to answer your question, one
Yeah.
one more.
Yeah.
What would you say then, in your view, again, Sam, what are the 3 main problems that a company might have
Mm. Mhm.
if they create an overly competitive environment?
Yeah. That's a really, really good question, Mike. And obviously, if we were to go with our top 3, my first one is we've spoken about commitment being the currency, and then the currency involved in that being time, right? So
Yeah,
I think it just boils down to just obviously naturally less time spent on the vacancy or on each vacancy, which ultimately impacts the scope and size of the talent pool that you would have available to you.
yeah,
So that is definitely number one. And then also from a recruitment point of view, it's also less time available from a recruiter's point of view to be able to credibly assess and screen these candidates at a suitable level for you when you do get the shortlist that would come through. So
Yeah, I
again,
totally agree with that one.
that's that. And then obviously the natural problem that's going to come is the time to hire. There's going to be longer time to hire due to obviously the factors that we've spoken about, which then naturally means that due to your vacancy perhaps not being prioritized at the level that it's not been at due to lack of commitment that we're seeing, it's going to take you longer time to fill the role. So that becomes a natural problem on top of the other two that I've mentioned. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think all of these problems loop back into time to hire.
Yeah.
Companies, when they've got a sales vacancy, most of the time, or the vast majority of the time, they want it filling as quickly as they can because maybe it's a territory that someone else was managing, and there's no one looking after it now, so customers aren't getting the service they need. Or if it's a new business job, your competition is taking business that you could be winning. So ordinarily, time to hire is key. And as we've said, by creating an overly competitive environment, your recruitment partners can't spend as much time as what they want on the vacancy, which limits your talent pool, means you see less people.
Yeah. So
or you see people from one portion of the market, not all of the market. And then again, like the time to hire piece comes in from the fact that, if the recruiter can't spend as much time as what they'd want assessing and interviewing people, then you may not see people at interview stage who tick all the boxes that you want, which means that you might need to interview more people to find the candidate. And again, all this loops back into time, an extended time to hire. Whereas if you work with one or two recruitment partners who can spend the time that they need, then actually you'll still be spreading your net as wide as you need to, because they'll be putting in more resources, finding more candidates, and you should fill your role quicker because they're more bought into you.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, Mike. I suppose if we were to then flip it on the other end, so we've obviously spoken about the problems. If you're a sales leader and you're in a position to work with, a number of recruiters and you're not getting the service that you'd expect, what are the things that you think you could do if you're a sales leader, just to flip it on the other end?
So I'm a sales leader, and I'm in a position whereby I'm experiencing all of these problems. Like I'm working with I'm working with BMS, I'm working with 4 other recruiters as well. No one's giving me candidates. Frustrated. The job's been live for 3 months. I'm like, just getting nowhere with it. What could I do? So the advice I would give to a sales leader in that position would be, first and foremost, ask your recruitment partners, like, what are they doing to find candidates for the vacancy? What resources have they put in? How have they gone about attracting people? What searches have been done? I'd be then asking how else we can work together more closely to maximize this recruitment partnership. I say this all the time. Very rarely, and I've been in recruitment now for 11 years, have I ever been asked a question by a hiring manager, sales leader, how do we get the most out of this recruitment partnership? How do we get the most out of BMS? And if you ask that question, you'll be surprised at the responses that you get from your recruitment partner. One, because they won't be expecting it, but two, you'll open the door to a higher level of service, solutions that you wouldn't have thought about previously. So that'd be one of the first things that I'd do. Secondly, meet your recruitment partner face to face. We talk about this a lot, don't we? The world is done on video, it seems, certainly, in our world. But you can't beat meeting your recruitment partner face to face. The feel that you get from the recruitment partner will get from you, seeing your premises, etc. They will make matches from that they wouldn't have made without meeting you,
Yeah.
because they'll get a real feel for your personality. And most companies will hire on skills over experience, dependent on obviously the level of the role, the
Yeah.
seniority.
Yeah.
So sales recruitment becomes more of a
Yeah.
skills character match, and you get that much more easily, don't you, when you meet
Yeah.
face to face. Anything that you'd advise a sales leader in that position, other than the 2 points that I've suggested?
I think you've come up with some really good points, Mike. Obviously, I love the idea of meeting people face to face. I know we've spoken about this countless times on the podcast. Obviously, investing time in terms of understanding what's been done. Obviously, asking those questions right at the start. But I think also, right away at the start, investing time in articulating the brief at the first instance, right?
Yeah,
We touched on, potential sometimes people not having the time or getting an email on a role to work on the brief. Just being,
if we go back,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you, Sam,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you can come back on this. But just
yeah,
if we go back to the very start of this podcast,
yeah.
like that's exactly what didn't
That's it.
happen. It
Yeah,
was is the
they're all.
opportunity
Yeah, go.
go,
Yeah,
yeah, like, and that's it just sets the tone for a transactional relationship. But yeah, sorry,
yeah,
go on.
yeah. So yeah, exactly, pretty much that, right? So investing that time into clearly articulating the brief, understanding what those levels of commitment are, providing that time and that availability to who you want to be working to. So it just starts right the way from the word go, committing to obviously ideally face to face if we can, but if not, then 15 minutes probably isn't going to cut it in any
No,
level of role, right? So really investing the time to, half an hour, have a couple of hours to really, for something that size, you want to be extremely committed. And, you obviously want to try and work closely with people, right? So look at different options. I know you touched on different service levels and opening different doors, looking at exclusivity and comparing how that could work for you as an organization. And then equally, the level above that, work on a retained basis. To see what solutions could be put into place, what impact that will have for you on the role that you're looking for. So trialing all these different solutions plus all the points that you had, I think you'll be onto a real winner.
yeah, definitely. You should at least go some way to solving your problem. But like,
Yeah,
I think underpinning all of this,
yeah,
it's communication, isn't it?
yeah,
Like what's talking about.
yeah,
It's the right type of communication and investing in a partnership
yeah,
rather than let's make it, a dogfight for
yeah,
everyone. Fastest finger first,
yeah.
race to the bottom recruitment. Yeah, it doesn't serve anyone.
No,
But yeah, right, okay, that was us on our soapbox anyway.
yeah,
So
no,
I feel like we put
absolutely not.
the world to rights in that one.
Yeah,
So to finish off with, Sam, it is
yeah,
your turn.
yeah, of
So
course.
what's your sales tip of the week then?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one, Mike, and I think if I'm a sales professional and if I'm going into an interview now, and when I'm thinking about what's going to separate me from another candidate who has a similar background, or who probably has a stronger background, what you want to do is you want to be prepared, and by preparation I mean maybe a portfolio of sales success stories, right? And I'll expound a
Okay.
bit further on that, right? So
Yeah.
so many times in an interview, when I've interviewed sales professionals at all levels as well, that there are so many different instances where people haven't got proven examples of things that they've been able to do. For example, I increased revenue by 30% in
Mm.
Q1 of this year, right? We want by how did you do that? Did I implement a sales strategy, right? What was that sales strategy? So if that's within obviously my world, it's maybe leveraging clinical trials and evidence of our products and our success when we're engaging with these stakeholders, right? So being able to be prepared and provide as many different examples of sales successes and achievements over a period of time, and then quantifying that over the quarter, by percentages, how this looked after the first 2 weeks of my strategy, how this looked after the first 2 months, and then looking at it as a percentage versus time. that's what makes a truly outstanding sales professional. So I think the key thing is, having a list of examples of things that you've implemented, but also how you've done it. I think that will really separate anyone for any sales interview.
Yeah, great tip. Great tip. It takes me back to the days when I was interviewing and you had what was called a brag file type thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but this
Yeah.
is slightly more
Yeah.
sophisticated than that. But
Yeah.
yeah, great tip. And I don't think people are doing that.
Definitely not.
At all.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thanks for that. And hope everyone enjoyed the podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode. So bye for now.
Bye for now.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Recruitment Roundup podcast. Thank you very much for listening to the show, to watching the show. We really appreciate your support. It would be absolutely fantastic if you could give us a rating on Apple, on Spotify, give us a review. Any feedback really helps and is massively appreciated. So thank you once again for joining us, and we will hopefully see you again next week.